And thank you so much for everybody for sticking around for the LGBTQ panel portion of the Activist Summit. I am James Fauntleroy, your host for this hour or the next 40 minutes or so, because unfortunately we had some technical difficulties. So unfortunately, some of the people who are supposed to be on this panel are not here at the moment, but we shall press on because that's how we do. I would like to introduce my homie, my sister from another mister, Afeni.
Hello, hi, how are you doing?
By the way, I just got to say this. Your edges are looking so good right now, Homer.
Chill, they not even laid down, chill.
Oh, they look like they laid down. Hey, you got to fake it till you make it, right?
Period.
I can't look at you without laughing because you know us. So it's good to see you.
That's
Uh,
easy.
yeah.
I
So,
just know what it
you're like, "Hey."
is.
Thank you so much to everybody who's sticking around. So, one of the things that I wanted to discuss was about activism for those of us who are activists for the LGBTQ cause, as well as those of us who are activists that so happen to be LGBTQ. And so, for anybody who hasn't guessed it already, I don't know, y'all been under a rock for some time, but I'm gay. I'm gay as the day. Look, I am gayer than a $3 bill and a sparkly cash register on a Fire Island club. Yeah, if y'all haven't guessed that by already, what in the hell? Welcome to RBN. Welcome to the Activist Summit. And Afidi, don't look at me like that. So you identify also as queer as well.
I'm a big old lesbo. Yes.
Look, if y'all need to stay for this one. Okay, so I can't even get to my first question with you. So, as far as the, I don't want to misinterpret this word, but as far as the intersection between being queer as well as your activism, how do you link the two, and how does that manifest into the actions that you advocate for in the streets on a daily basis?
I mean, like I am gay and black and a woman at all times, all three at the
True.
same time. So it shapes
Yeah.
my worldview and it translates to, like the type of activism that I do. Um, but I honestly, this is gonna sound bad, but there are not that many like queer protests, like queer centric protests anyway, that happen around the district. Like last summer we did do like a, I would say like 9-week campaign. It was like shut down Nelly's out here in DC, which, and Nelly's is it's a gay club out here,
Mm.
but they are always been very white. It's always like if you go in there, like the music, everything that you need to know about that place is in its essence, right? And a black woman got pulled down the stairs by her hair by the security guards there. Yes. So we did definitely shut that motherfucker down. But one thing that I will say, like, especially as a queer activist, I feel like a lot of people focus very solely on the cultural aspects of like what queer activism is, and they don't really talk about the structural, economic, like ways that people that are queer are harmed. And I feel like a lot of the time the conversation gets shifted away from like how queer people get harmed in the healthcare system, or how queer people get discriminated against at in the workplace, and how that affects our employment, our wages, and all that other stuff. Instead of that, we talking about, like, I don't know, like we're talking about like just all the surface level shit. Like trans people are less than 1% of the population, but yet all we talk about is like them in sports, or we're talking about just a bunch of shit that I just feel like at this point is not getting to the root of what makes us unsafe in this country. Like
Yeah.
it takes a lot more than just, saying the right things. If the actions and the support, the economic support, especially behind queer people, black trans women, isn't there, especially if the healthcare isn't there. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like the conversations now, the conversations in many activism spaces, but especially in the queer activism space, is more about like the symbols of queer people being accepted without like the structural acceptance that is needed for that to actually be true.
Yeah,
So I hope I said that in a way that was not offensive. I was trying really hard to thread that needle, but yeah.
Yeah.
I got you. I fully understand. I also want to give an introduction to Indigo Let. They are an activist with the let me make sure I get the name of the action correct. Social Trans Initiative.
Mhm.
So Indigo, it is so good to have you. Welcome to RBN, and if you'd like to give a little bit about yourself and talk about the actions that you are involved in as well.
Okay. Yeah. Hello. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Yeah. So I'm Indigo Let. I am the social media coordinator and the secretary of Strive, which we've actually changed it. It's actually Socialist Trans Initiative now. We went on because you know how things are going now. We were like, we got to change the name at this point. make our claim. But yeah, so our president, I'll let them know later, because they had an issue with sciatica, so they couldn't make it. Yeah, they have issues, so I'll let them know later that that we did it early, but because we're located in Pensacola, Florida, which is on the Gulf Coast. An area that really has a lot of unfortunate like poverty and working class people in it. And we're the only part of the area that has the Central Time, so that's why I'm sorry we came on like we did. But
It's okay.
yeah. So yeah, so what we do we're an activist organization. So we're not a 501c3. We take our donations from either like Cash App or PayPal, and those donations go to trans people or just the local LGBTQ plus community in the Gulf Coast as much as we can. It goes to like HRT, which is hormone replacement therapy. It goes to like clothes. It goes to transportation, anything like that, to where, especially even housing. So we try to give, especially with our area, there is no homeless shelter here that will take trans people. So what we try to do, yeah, we've tried to ask a bunch of them, but they've a lot of them are religious based. So
of course.
Yeah. So a lot of them are religious based, so they unfortunately don't take trans people. So what we try to do is have like a housing network of people that we know who can house for like a day or two at least, to at least get them to like the next step or whatever, or anything like that. So that's where our finances go to. We also have like Trans Fest, which is coming up in November. So Trans Day of Remembrance is on November the 20th. So we usually have like a 3-day event where we have like music and stuff like that, and then the last day is usually the somber Trans Day of Remembrance. So yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm gonna be honest with you; it is a privilege to have you and Afeni to talk about this. One of the reasons why is because I want everybody to take a good look at the screen right now. It's Black queer people in front of your screen right now. And the thing is that there's a lot of erasure that even happens within the LGBTQ community. We gotta look. Sometimes some harsh truths have to be spoken about, and I'm channeling my inner Afeni right now, because sometimes sometimes we gotta put the real out there. You know what I'm saying? And the real is that, did I just invent something to say? Shit, on my back. But the real is, we get like, for instance, who's overly represented in media and in politics today? It's the Peter Paul Montgomery Buttigieg's, right? The white gay male that's constantly in front of us. And so one of the things that I wanted to do this from is actually from a Black queer perspective as well, and also other, brown queer people as well. But one of the things that I think that you were speaking to, Afeni, which is something I think that a lot of us don't take into consideration, is the concrete things that those of us that are part of this community need. Like, for instance, the first thing that comes to my mind, and Indigo, you were talking about HRT, is I see so many trans people, especially, that are putting up GoFundMes for their surgeries, for their HRT, in order to fund that. And in a truly representative society, even we would have a healthcare infrastructure that makes it so that gender reassignment surgery or gender affirmation surgery is covered under a single payer system, at least a single payer system. I prefer nationalization, but that goes without saying. But for that, as well as HRT for those of us who want it or need it that are trans. And so, can you speak to that a little bit, Afeni, as to the importance, as well as Indigo? Can you both speak to the importance of that and why it means really our very survival within this community?
Indigo, really quickly, there's a question in the chat, like, what's HRT? And I don't know I don't know what it stands for, so I don't want to be loud or wrong.
Hormone replacement therapy. So like for for trans men it'd be like testosterone, and for like trans women it'd be estrogen. It's just a way to make you feel more like yourself, essentially, through using with doctor or your local endocrinologist or your local doctor, your primary care doctor, and things like that. Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry. Like my ADHD brain, I needed to know the answer before I moved on.
Yes. I have ADHD. I have yes.
But I didn't know what hormone replacement therapy is. I guess I never put two and two together. That's what it stood for. But yeah, I think I'm going to speak from my perspective as a cisgendered lesbian woman. One of the things that has really bothered me is the representation that we do have, like, in our sphere, is like lighter skinned, racially ambiguous, curly haired. If you look at even the trans people that are put on television, like, many of them are not dark skinned. Like, so that in and of itself is, I think, representation that we don't talk about enough in the queer community, and also the ways in which that, like, really affects, especially Black queer people, because we grow up in such, like, forced conservative spaces where we've been indoctrinated with a bunch of white supremacist ideas. And one of the main ones a lot of our community has stuck to is the homophobia, the transphobia, and all that type of bigotry.
Yeah.
I think that it's very important for people to see people like that, and not only to see people that look like them, and not only to see people that look like them, but that representation actually being for what our community needs. Like, too often, like, we have a queer Black woman that is the mayor of DC, Muriel Bowser, and she's the fucking worst. Like, she's literally the worst. There are so many queer people, especially in DC, who are, unhoused and stuff like that, and they live on homeless encampments. Well, guess what Muriel Bowser's doing? She's bulldozing these people, like, taking up their tents, taking up all their things. And then when organizations like Casa de Ruby and like other organizations that are out here, like oh my goodness, the check it. They used to be a gang, but now they're an organization, y'all. You know, that even the check it, like they will lobby the mayor to try and get, you know, like queer specific housing that will not put trans women in like male housing, just because like things like small things like that in our lives in our sphere can cause like irreparable damage, violence, harm, and trauma that can't be undone. So you know, I don't know. I get kind of frustrated at the overall conversations on the left when it comes to like the queer community, because people want to wave the rainbow flags all of June. But then when we talk about how Black mask presenting women that are lesbians most of the time are getting shot and killed by the police too, they're also like disappearing in disproportionate numbers as well.
That's true.
Yeah. Nothing's getting done. No noise is really being made, and they are largely erased in the conversation that we have when we talk about violence against Black people, but especially violence against Black queer people. So you know, I am looking for substantive solutions in all the conversations that I'm having with any elected official, any like, you know, power player in the community that can effectuate some change and make our lives materially better. Like those are the kind of conversations I'm trying to have. I'm not trying to talk about how you want to put every single queer flag up in the fucking city hall in June. Like I don't give a shit about that. Like you can name all the streets you want after Marsha P. Johnson, but if the spirit of what Marsha P. Johnson was actually protesting for is not, you know, met, then what the fuck are we really doing? Like, what are we doing?
Yes, Indigo, please chime in too.
Yeah, so I think like a lot of times we don't. When I used to start doing speaking and stuff, the thing I was always telling people was like, intersectionality is important, especially in the Black community. Like if you help out the one who's the most disenfranchised or the most discriminated against, that's going to help you out too. Like that's what a lot of people don't get. Like if you help out a Black trans person who is disabled, who has a lot of mental health issues, all their issues are going to eventually get to you. It's almost like a bottom up rather than that trickle down BS that they talk about. Because and then it also gets you to know people as well. Like you're like, okay, well, this person's actually going through things that, you know, I've seen before or things like that. And so but yeah, with representation, you know, we don't, especially with a lot of Black trans people, we don't get a lot of it. I mean, yeah, there's Laverne Cox and there's a few others, but it's not, you know, it's not enough to where it's like, hey, it's not enough to where it's not only just a token, but it's also like substantive as well. And I think that's where a lot of people, they'll just throw that token one out and be like, see, there's representation right there. See? And you're like, wait, hold on though. But then we have a lot of, you know, unfortunately, especially every year when we go through our Trans Day of Remembrance, I would say at least 3/4 of the people that are killed are Black. And usually they're Black women, Black trans women. The last year, what was like the highest year, we had like 50 trans people that had died. And like I would say about 40 of those were Black trans women. So like, you know, those are things that we really need to focus on. And like, you know, I watched y'all channel and I really love it because I hear all these conversations that are helping us out, because it's like, you know, if you provide people with enough housing, healthcare, jobs and everything like that, that'll get people from being off the streets to actually being able to provide for themselves. But when they're not able to, they're desperate and they're trying to like do anything they can. And so that gets them, unfortunately, into some trouble, you know. And I'm for sex work, obviously, but like I just, you know, it's a dangerous thing. And so when you get into that, like, you know, you can get into a lot of trouble. And so I just, you know, it's something that we often need to kind of look at within the queer community, especially because we often just look at our white passing queer people as success. And when they're not, and we don't look at our Black, you know, and brown people as success as much. And so we really need to start uplifting those who are on the streets or trying to activists or, trying to do the jobs that, people don't often see. And so we need to uplift them as well.
Indigo, if you
Mhm.
can you speak to what are the concrete changes that you are looking to implement in the future, especially from I'm personally I'm a socialist. Okay,
Mhm.
I am for workers owning the means of production and distribution, and for certain sectors of necessary industries to be nationalized, either into utilities or what have you. So, if you can speak to that, and then Afeni, if you can also chime in your thoughts too about what necessary concrete things we need, because a lot of times people are like, oh, we just want acceptance. It's like, but what does that acceptance mean
Yeah.
on a foundational level?
Yeah, so I think it's a two-folded type thing. On the one hand, you have the culture, but you also have like the the economic issue. So like a lot of people will look at the culture and be like you're saying, like they'll be like, "Hey, we did this one thing," and then, "Hey, we put this person in the movie," and then that's it. And the people, capitalism will, for me, for most of our organization, the majority of us are communists. So we're really more, yeah, yeah, we're really more about the means, seizing the means of production and having workers just own their own means, and then also people who can't work be able to be supported as well. A lot of people I know in our community who can't work because and they're struggling to get trying to get disability, nevertheless, anything else. And so that is something as well, because I have a lot of friends who either they get overwhelmed at work or there's not enough workplace like um accommodations for trans people or people who are disabled. So that's the start there. But if we want to go to more like a low, like a concrete, is just allowing people to have the housing that they need, the um and fighting for universal health care. That's another big thing, because that for me is one of the biggest things, because that covers everybody, and that's something that everybody can fight for at the same time, no matter where you are on the political spectrum. We have a lot of people. What was it? Trump came here like 3 times, so we have a lot of people here who are conservative, and we talk to them all the time. And we say, and they're like, "Dang, man, I'm struggling right now, man. I don't know. I have no money. My family's doing this and that," and we're just like, and there a lot of it deals with healthcare. So I think that's another thing as well, but also just being able to have places where um trans people can go, like homeless shelters and things like that. But what we try to do is like direct action and mutual aid. So a lot of what we try to do is, hey, we have food not bombs. Hey, if you're homeless, they have Friday nights at 7. Come on through. They got food for you. We may have a house for you here, or we'll put your GoFundMe on our Facebook page. Let's get that started. I feel like GoFundMe and Cash App and stuff are like that new healthcare, unfortunately, for a lot of people. And so, like I said, the foundation I feel is to make sure that people understand the struggles of each other, and especially within the queer community, because there's a lot of queer people, as soon as they got gay rights, they just moved on.org. And I'm just like, you got to come back. You got to come back, dog. There's a
Yeah,
lot of trans and queer black people, black and brown, and even white trans people who were like, yo, you threw us under the bus after y'all got
yeah,
through gay marriage. So we still got a lot of stuff to build upon so we can all be liberated. So I think
yeah,
that is the starting point.
yeah. And just one thing I want to add is when workers own the means of production, right? We don't care who you are as long as you can do the job and you're cool to work with. We don't care. So guess what? If you're a worker owner and you're trans, you don't have to necessarily worry about the inherent discrimination that comes with rejecting you for a job, because a lot of people are just like, we don't give a shit. We just care if you can do the job. Can you do it with us? Okay, great. Boom. I don't care. Look, we don't care. And I think, and a lot of times, we recognize that, you know, we try to recognize that within people, but within a structure, a capitalistic structure, if they see you that looks outside the norm, they're going to be concerned with certain people looking on because it's all about profit. And so, but without realizing, you know, we also work too. And the funny part is, a lot of times people don't realize is that there's a lot of us poor gays, and a lot of us poor trans and poor lesbians. There's a lot of us out there because we're still victims of the system too. If any, you wanted to add on to this?
Absolutely. Just to piggyback off of Indigo's point about universal health care, like something that I'm very invested in is when universal health care legislation is crafted, making sure that the specific language in whatever bill that is to ensure that it's anti-bias and anti-racist, and that gender affirming care is not counted as cosmetic, but that it is counted as the same way like any other type of healthcare would be classified and covered fully by universal healthcare. Because I feel like a lot of the times when you hear people talk about gender affirming care and like they talk about Medicare for all, like people like it's something that people feel like you still have to pay for. Like you have to like, and it's not that the girls have to pass. If the girls don't want to pass, they don't have to. But for the girls that do, for the people that do, we need to make sure that is accessible for them. And I just something else that I would really like to see is like workplace protections for trans people, especially. I feel like a lot of the conversations that we're having now, again, are centered on the very surface level things like pronouns and stuff like that, but they're not talking about like the basic respect of this human being in the space, and like how their life experience and their worldview is genuinely different from everybody else that's in the room because they exist outside of the gender binary. So we need to start to have real conversations about what those structures and what those things look like when and if we do get to work a co-op businesses. Like I don't think that bigotry is inextricably linked to capitalism. Like clearly bigotry and all of those things existed before capitalism. So it may very well exist after. So I think it's just very important that when we're having these conversations that we're like talking about the specific things of what we need, because a lot of the times when we're having like the more broader conversations in the left spaces, these are the things that get kind of swept under the rug. Like, oh, well, that's just a throwaway, like, so who cares if less than 1% of the population can get the care that they need? Honestly, I'm pretty sure that if it was more accessible, the trans community would probably be bigger. But yeah, like every marginalized group deserves complete and total protection. And it is up to us as community members to make sure that the people that are disabled in our space that want to get access to the health care they need, that they get access to that. The people that are, looking to transition or looking to get some type of gender affirming care, they're able to do that in the same way that women can get breast reductions. Like I think you know what I'm saying? Like exactly. It really is giving that. You feel me? So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully I answered the question.
Yeah, and you know what? There's something I also want to ask, and I want to start with you for this one, Afeni, and then also you, Indigo, to also chime in. In your opinion, within the framework of those of us who are LGBTQ, who should be the people at the front or the leadership of the movement in order to uplift us and get us liberation?
I think the Black trans girls, Black queer people, Black non-binary people, because I think something that we don't talk about enough, especially within the Black queer community, is the historical significance of our gender non-conforming folks, of the spiritual significance of our gender non-conforming folks, and how, all the way back when they were first practicing African traditional religions, gender nonconforming people, even in indigenous religions, like here in what is now America, even in that space, like two-spirit people were seen as the people that were closest to the higher power, closest to God, whatever you want to call it. And through their access to the validity of the spirit, they were the spiritual leaders of our communities. So if I'm looking at that, that's what I'm thinking now. Like, clearly the people that are closest to the pain are also closest to the solutions. They understand the saliency.
Yes.
And they understand the urgency in which these solutions need to be applied. They understand the specifics because they lived it. So, when I think now about who should lead our movements, not even just like within the queer space, but on the left in general, the movement needs to be Black led, and it needs to be Black femme led, it needs to be Black trans led, Black queer led, Black non-binary led, because we are the ones that are closest to the pain, that are sitting under all of the intersections of oppression, the compounding oppressions that operate in our lives in a very special and specific way. So because of that, only we have the keys to actually free everybody else and liberate everybody else. Period. Once we are liberated, once we are truly free, we have destroyed every other system of oppression, just simply because we encounter all of them.
Indigo, please. Your
thoughts. Beyond Feeney literally hit every single.
You know why I started out with her, right?
Yeah, because it's hard to come up. It's hard to come up stage after that and be like, "Wait," like they did everything.
I know exactly what I was doing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I guess what I could add is just the fact that, like, Black and Indigenous folks need to be the ones in front. Like, usually we're really the ones that face just about everything, from the microaggressions, from the little things, microaggressions, all the way to violence and death. Like, through that. And even within our own communities, there's a lot of, just a lot of oppression, and with that, and just growing up around, homophobia and transphobia, and trying to, like, tell your own people, like, hey, we're there's a struggle within our own community, but like the intersectionality of it, in our own community, within our own community, and because I think a lot of people think that the LGBT community is like together as a whole, but I'm like, no, there's divisions within it. Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because on TikTok, there's a lot of Black cis people that are figuring that out now. They're like, wow, there's a lot of division. Yes.
Yes.
We're not all together, baby. Like, there's white gay people who are racist too. Like, y'all, they're like, come on, like, get with it, And so, if you look at a pain of, like, somebody who is, like, Indigenous or Black, and they're disabled, and they have, like, ADHD or bipolar disorder or anything like that, and they're poor, and they just, they don't have many outlets for finances because the world around them, I mean, heck, there's places around town that don't cater to a ramp walkway. Nevertheless, so catering to, like, somebody's pronouns, or catering to somebody how they're being treated at work. And so if you put a trans person who's Black or Indigenous, in front of people in front of the movement, you're going to get your needs met too. You're going to get everything, because what they need is what you need. A lot of times people look at it and go like, well, they need this, and I think our government tries to split apart, the needs of the people. But I'm like, you're actually, you all need the very same things. And so once they start realizing that, we can walk in lockstep to the White House or to wherever we need to go to, to get our liberation. And I'm just, because we've looked at it time and time again with these candidates. I mean, I'm not maybe talking about state and local, but definitely national. And I'm like, yo, get out of there. Like, stop voting for them. Like, so, or at least not stop putting your money into them, because they're not helping you. They're just putting, they're literally just putting people up there for representation, like the press secretary. Like, yo, I love that she has all the stuff, but I'm like, at the same time, she is a very problematic person herself. So it's like, you have to not just take what people are just, are giving you as in like representation, and ask for the substance and stuff. And I know that's scary, but like we've got to do that if we want, our liberation. So yeah.
Yeah, I would also just like to add that, there's a lot of shitting on like identity politics. And identity politics has been bastardized in the past 40 or so years, especially by the Democratic Party, because they took the right wing framing and they ran with it. They literally, oh my God, ew, right?
Yeah.
So all of that is very true. But what we're talking about here, when we're talking about real solutions, is a return to the true spirit of what identity politics was, which was steeped in class analysis, which and also which solutions were based in creating a world that has true transformative accountability, absolute justice, and racial equity. That is what that at the end of the day, that is what identity politics really means. And so that's why when we're having conversations like this, I think it's just very important to talk about the fact that identity has been weaponized, but through that weaponization, there are real harms that come to those marginalized communities. The violence against trans women, especially, is out of fucking control.
Yeah.
And the anti-trans violence you're seeing in states like Florida
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
it is detrimental to the mental health of every queer or trans child that lives in that state.
Yeah.
Because, I remember when I was growing up, and I'm Jamaican and Panamanian, and we're like very traditional family, very religious. I grew up spiritual Baptist,
Same.
and
Yeah.
yeah, like literally, like I was not allowed to veer off of what was being taught to me. And the moment that they realized that I was queer, I started to get punished in a lot of different ways. So being as though queer kids already deal with so much pressure from the inside.
Yeah.
We're already dealing with it within our homes. But now you have an entire state apparatus that is mobilizing against you to tell you that your very existence is illegal, that it's wrong, that it's perverted, that it's disgusting, and that if you are a queer person, that you're automatically in lockstep with people that touch children or bestiality. Like these are the things that you're hearing, and it is detrimental to every queer and trans child that lives in Florida. So there are like real ramifications that come from this, from policies like that. And so that's the only reason why, like, I'm apprehensive to tell people to check out of the electoral system completely, just because when we do check out the electoral system, the first one they come after is us as Black people, us as queer people, as gender
Yes.
non-conforming. Like,
Yes.
we are the first ones, the first rights to get taken away.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, maybe because I'm also in the DC bubble, it's a little hard sometimes to see outside of it. But I'm very, very apprehensive to basically just throw a bunch of trans kids to the wind just for like, and we're not organizing any other solutions.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not saying vote blue. I'm saying we have 2 years. Let's get it together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
so my thing is, and I hope I don't offend some people, but to all the people who, when the anniversary of Matthew Shepard's death was happening, where were you talking about the lives of especially Black trans people who basically experienced what Matthew Shepard has going through every single day? And on top of it, when it comes to what we have to deal with on a systemic basis, how many Black trans people have to deal with housing issues, employment issues, on top of healthcare issues, on top of it? So I think this is something that we have to take into consideration. Indigo, before um, before I, let you go, um, so if you can speak to, you know, what methods that you're doing as a as an activist, LGBTQ activist, and you know what you're trying to accomplish, and also if you can give us the resources that or the resource that you're with so that we can also uplift your organization more in the near future.
Okay. Yeah. So what we're trying to do now, obviously the midterms are coming up. And we basically have, I would say, unfortunately, state-wise, we have like Donald Trump versus Biden 2.0 with DeSantis and Charlie Crist. Nobody wanted Chris, to be honest. But well, we I forgot the candidate before during the primaries, but we have that. So um, we do. There is like other organizations like Black Voters Matter here, and we have Dream Defenders here who are trying to help on that front. So they're pushing that, and I'm grateful for them because they they're the ones that are like rock out the vote and all that. And I'm like, good. So, but on our end, what we're trying to do is to keep notifying people of the unfortunate trans law bills that have been passed recently these last 2 years. There was the Parent Bill of Rights. There was the obviously we had the sports one that got passed, and there's a few others. And so we're constantly trying to remind people, and we're constantly working with other other trans organizations in the state of Florida. I think there's the Florida Trans Alliance. So we're trying to work
Mm-hmm.
Transgender Alliance. We're trying to work with them as well as much as we can.
Mm-hmm.
And just to make sure that people are getting out and just understanding what's actually happening. But then also on a local level, on our level, we're still doing, like I said, Trans Fest, where we're trying to promote that. But then also, I think, we usually take it like a little sabbatical, like in December. So we try to like organize more things and because usually at that point, the situation is already done. So we're trying to think of things to do in January. So I'm not sure yet on that part, but we're going to try to basically organize more and then get people out more in different protests and things like that. But our website is Devin put it in the private chat. But our website is strivepensacola.com. Our Cash App is not hashtag $sign Strive Pensacola. And then our PayPal is Strive Pensacola 850. Any donations will be welcome. That definitely help out because even now we're still currently helping trans people with any sort of like needs. And then we've had a few homeless trans people recently, and we've tried to help them with blankets, and we tried to help them with other little things as well. Trying to find them little housing if we can, or food if anything they need really quickly. So thank y'all guys for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry for the lateness again.
No,
But yeah, we're trying our best. We're still kind of doing our best to try to organize as much as we can on our side. So, but yeah.
Thank you so very much as
Yeah.
well. And if any parting words for this panel, because I know you'll be staying on for the next panel.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be on the next panel. So
I know. Just
but
parting
one thing
words.
I will say is,
Yeah.
It's very important for us to have these conversations because abolition is not impossible, but it is unimaginable. And through conversation, through understanding, and through like absolute truth, do we find our liberation. And yeah, so I'm just really grateful to be a part of these conversations. Thank you so much, Indigo,
Yeah.
for sharing space me, because
Yeah.
like I said, I'm still killing a lot of that fuck shit that I was indoctrinated with in my head. So I'm just always grateful, even within the community, to just sit down, shut up, and listen sometimes. And so thank you.
Me too.
Yeah, no, it's great. I love conversating with y'all. Like, I was always thinking, like, man, I hope I can be on there one day with y'all and talk with y'all about trans issues and things. And like, here we are. So, because I love y'all channel to death. I love and all y'all, because Nick, CJ, Rome, and all y'all. I just but yeah, thank y'all for having me.
Thank you so much, Indigo. So good to have you. Afeni, stay yo behind right there. And Indigo, by the way, we'll communicate. I'll get you on my channel too. So
Okay,
we'll talk.
yeah, thank you. Yeah.